والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا إنك سميع مجيب الدعاء. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع وقلب لا يخشع ونفس لا تشبع ودعاء لا يسمع. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Welcome everyone. MashaAllah, I'm happy that you all came in. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. This will be actually the last Tuesday. And then I'll see you after Ramadan, inshallah. So hopefully, bi'idhnillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yani, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I think at least for a year now, if not even more, Alhamdulillah, we learned a lot of things. Yani, I'm talking about to everybody, including myself. We learned about the Quran, we learned how to read Quran, we learned about Ramadan, we learned what do we need to do, time coming to practice. And I need everyone to ask herself is like, how much more I need to learn to practice? Reality, you don't need much. Just start. So put it this way, it may sound a little bit hard on you, but sometimes we need to raise the bar. So say to yourself, this Ramadan, no way it's going to be like last year. Just put it as a goal. Put it as a goal, right? At least, yeah, this is what I say. If you put A+, minimum you will get B. But if you put B, there's a good possibility you will get F. Right? So always put a higher. Don't say, I can't do it. Once you say, I can't do it, I'm going to tell you you're not going to do it. So they always say, inshallah, and you mean it, bi'idhnillah, and Allah will make it easy. So the first thing is, this Ramadan is going to be different. How it's going to be different, I can't give you one recipe. Because what applies for me can't apply for you, and what applies for you can't apply for you. But in general, each one of you, and this is why I chose this subject at the last. I'm sure many of you are like, why is the subject at the end before Ramadan, right? Because that's how you're going to be different. Because everybody talks about Ramadan, virtues of fasting, and you have memorized it, and let me see it in practice. This is something is easy, bi'idhnillah, to practice if you focus on it. And if you make it a priority, like everybody makes fasting a priority, you should. This subject, nature and Islam, it's absolutely an act of worship. That's number one thing you have to change. Meaning, when you say, I am not going to drink in a bottle of plastic water, in a plastic bottle, I'm not being a green movement. I am actually being a practicing Muslim. That's number one thing has to change. I mean, I looked before I came in here. There's a PhD thesis in Arabic about al-bi'a wal-Islam, nature and Islam, the title. PhD thesis. We never think of that. Why? Because again, we as Muslims narrowed how we made ourselves so narrow how we look at Islam. We made it so small. It's, you know what, I pray, I go to the masjid, I put hijab, I fast, I'm perfect. Jannah is waiting for me. Ya Rabbi, Ameen. But I don't know, inshallah it is, but I don't know. But there is other things. So when you come to it in Arabic nature, it's called al-bi'a, right? And if I want just to let you know or just to learn what this word means, it's going to reflect the way you look at this earth or where we are living. Al-bi'a, nature, you know what it is? Nature is actually a place, mimbawa'a in Arabic language, a place where you settle, where you find comfort, where you find peace. So when Allah put me on this earth, this earth, already He created it, and He fashioned it in a way that it is a place of comfort, a place to serve me, a place I enjoy, and most importantly, it's a place I serve Allah. Allah didn't create the earth so I come and do whatever. It is my place. And let me ruin it. Let me do whatever I want because I like it. So every time you literally doing something related to nature, the first thing you're going to say, this is a good deed. I'm going to get times 10. You know when you invite someone to your home to break the fast? Why? She's my friend, invited me last year. Right? Am I correct? Am I making this up? No, it's reality. my apology, this reality is not an act of worship. Versus man fattara sa'im, the person who is going to invite a fasting person to what? To serve him, to break his fast or her fast. That's an act of worship. That act of worship times 10. When I am in the masjid and I go and do wudu and I don't waste the water, that's not only an act of worship, it's an act of obedience, because the opposite, please pay attention, what I see in the bathrooms is beyond me when women are doing wudu. When I waste the water, I am disobeying Allah. I'm fasting. I'm getting ready to go to break my fast, to pray Maghrib in the masjid. Anything better than that? And it's Ramadan. And here I am doing wudu, wasting the whole water. Why the water is on and I am washing my hand? Can't I just wash once, close it, wash second, close? How long it will be more? How many seconds longer? But you already obeyed Allah. Same thing when you wash your feet. Why the water is running? إسباغ الوضوء, there's a hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, ذلكم الرباط, some of you may know it, right? One of the acts that shows me and you as a person who's persistent and stable in her act of worship, one of them is إسباغ الوضوء على المكاره, is when you do your wudu in situations it's difficult for you. For example, it's very cold and there's no hot water in the house and you have to do wudu. How painful, right? That's called isbaghul wudu. Al makarih, meaning something I do it perfectly, but not in the best situation. One of the meaning of this is when you perfect your wudu with a little bit of water. You perfect your wudu in a little bit of water. The average amount of wudu, water for wudu, how much? 1 cup. Can we make it? Remember, we said this Ramadan is going to be different. Here you go. I am not going to go to the bathroom in the masjid and turn on the faucet. No, I'm taking a cup. I fill the cup. I sit in the area where, alhamdulillah, they made it for wudu, right? Beautiful. Sit there. It's going to take you longer in the beginning because you're not used to it. And teach yourself. And when you learn it well, you will have some water left in the cup. And you have done it perfectly with all the sunan. With all the sunan. That's number 1. Ramadan is going to be different this year. Remember I told you last week, 3 things. My relationship with Allah, my relationship with people, and I hope everybody forgave everyone last week. And I don't want to hear anything because I'm not going to accept it. Now, number 3 is my relationship with the earth, with the creation of Allah. Water is a creation of Allah. I'm going to, every time, I also recommend, if you're doing wudu at home, get a container, any container. Put it under the faucet when you're doing wudu and just see how much water is in that container. I've done it before. That's all waste because you don't need that much. This is all coming from the faucet in there. Are you all with me? Do it. You're going to see. What are you going to do with the water in the container? Throw it away, right? Alhamdulillah, we learned nothing. What are we going to do with it? You're going to tell me, but this coming from me. Did I say drink it? Water the plant, right? If you have a cat, put it in for the cat. Put it in your kettle and let it boil. Talk to the people of Gaza. Talk to the people of Gaza. How are they going to fast? Don't ask me. Do you think anybody will not fast because it's too difficult? No. So number 1 is water. Number 2 is resources. And Sama is going to tell you how Allah created everything in balance. Everything in balance. If this balance tilted, that's what we are seeing now. The weather, the changes, the hurricanes, earthquakes, all this because we tilted the balance. So number 1 is water. Number 2, and I honestly beg everybody in this room, you do not waste a single grain of rice. Anything you are eating, that plate is completely empty. That people say, did you eat? That's how it should be. This is an act of worship. This is not you are, mashallah, tabarakallah, and parents raised you well, or you are a person who pay attention to details. This is an act of worship. And if you don't do it, I hate to say this, but it's not my words. It's the words of Allah who created you and me. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Don't waste. He does not like those who are wasteful. هذه land, this no, don't, is an order. Those of you who know Arabic. And when you put order in the Quran, means it's an obligation, unless there is an exception. And there's no exception in this. It's twice came in the Quran, both relate to food. One came in Surah Al-An'am and the other one in Al-A'raf. Ya bani Adam, khudhu zinatakum inda kulli masjid. Children of Adam, beautify yourself for masjid or for salah. Wa kulu washrabu, eat and drink, right? Food. Wala tusrifu. Whether you are invited, whether it is in your home, whether it is an iftar in the masjid, it doesn't matter. Whether you just ordered food, whether it's a sandwich and you are eating, the issue is not what you are eating. Look at you. I don't want you to look at anybody. Look at yourself. Don't say this to your children and your plate is full of food. Whatever you put on that plate is going to go to you're going to eat it. Or you're going to pack it, put it for tomorrow, give it to someone. That's a different story. But don't you ever, ever, ever allow yourself as a Muslim, fasting, obedient to Allah, you want your Ramadan to be different, and then you throw food in the garbage. Don't tell me I don't like it. You're going to eat it. The more you train yourself, these habits are all trainable. They are changeable. Third, learn to compost. Learn to compost. There is many ways of doing it. I don't know if you're going to talk about it, but I definitely do it for years now. And I can't tell you how much less trash is in that trash bag or that trash can. Compost everything. Don't throw anything in the garbage. Even the gardener today, and he said, you know that the coffee we drink, don't throw it. The guy is not a Muslim. And he was looking at me and says, put it there on the plant. These are great food. Subhanallah. And this is our deen. So water, if I had the ability or the authority, I will ban water in plastics in masjid. Period. You manage. If you go to, when I land, honestly, because when we find it not available, we will manage. We'll pay attention. Oh, I didn't bring my cup. I will put one in the car. So every time I go, but if it is there in front of me, easier. And why do I want to worry? But let me be the pioneer. Because if I do it, you follow me, I'll get a reward and I'll get your reward, and your reward will not be less. Imagine you do it, everybody in that row follow you. Imagine you do it, beautiful youth, my beautiful daughters, and then your friend do it, and your friend do it, and your friend do it. Everybody is doing it, you will get the reward. And we only think a reward is on Laylatul Qadr when I am standing in Salah and I start crying and make it the end of the world if I have my menstruation at that day. And I missed a long list of good deeds. So water, food, and don't ruin the earth. Don't ruin the earth. Everyone, you live in California, we live in California, alhamdulillah. Make sure you plant something. That's hadith by itself. I can't tell you what it do to me. The meaning of, if the day of judgment comes and you are holding in your hand a plant, by Allah, who's going to think about the plant? It's the day of judgment. You know what does that mean? And what was the order of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam? Planted. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا is going to be turning upside down. But he still was teaching me and you, do a good deed to the last breath in you. And that's plant. Plant. You're going to tell me I have a lot of whatever animals, they will eat it. Well, let me give you a good news. Every time you plant anything, especially edibles, whoever eats from it, human being or animal, you will get the reward. It's a sadaqah, it's an act of charity for you. Plant fruit trees, plant any fruits, or plant any trees or any flowers. Why is that? You're going to talk about it. It brings back the balance, not because only it's beautiful or whatever the reason, but it brings back the balance of this earth that, again, we destroyed. Somebody was telling me, those of you maybe been here for a long time, they said in the 80s or 90s, I don't recall, this city was all, why it's called Orange County? The 60s. Right? Alhamdulillah. Why it's called Orange County? Teach them. It was all orange trees. All of it. What did we do? Cut it. All of it. Why? So everybody can live in, one person live in a house or two people live in a house. And then what happened? The balance is imbalance. Because when Allah created this place full of trees, He is Al-Mudabbir, He is Al-Qadir, He knew, Huwa Al-Hakim, He knows, He's the wise, He knows why this place was trees and the other place was not. I come in, I want to live, everything is being cut. What should I do? Alhamdulillah, He gave me a house, let me plant. Bring it back. Again, I don't want to take too much time because I want Sama to come and talk to you about the reality of it. And then I'll come back again and we'll take your questions, bi'idhnillah. So each one of you, get one thing. I will highly recommend the water. The wastefulness of water is something beyond me. And once you make it a habit, it becomes natural. My friends knows if they come to my house and if they are in that sink and the water is running, some of you are laughing, right? They know. I don't say anything. I just come and I close it, or I'm going to say, why the water is running? I am putting the dish in the dishwasher. Okay, you're putting the dish in the dishwasher. Why the water is running? Did you see? It's a 1 minute, less than maybe 10 seconds. But what it's going to cost me if I did this only? Again, put the containers and see how much water we are wasting. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us the best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to practice. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala change everything we do to become an act of worship. So I'm going to ask Sama to come in my place, and then I will come back, inshallah, another 20 minutes, and then I'll take your questions and answer. And please don't ask me about fiqh, please. Right? I think we have had it all. Come on in. Do you want to stand? Oh, Bismillah. Do you wanna come in my place? Yes, sure. Here you go, my dear. Let me just come down. Bismillah. This was really hard. Okay, come on. Okay, yes.
It's been beat up quite a bit. Okay. Is that okay? Okay. All right. All my notes with me. Okay. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. First and foremost, may I share today be a reminder to myself more than anybody else. First and foremost, what I share today be a reminder to myself more than anyone else, and may it be beneficial for everybody. And if it is, that's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if it's not, it's just from me. So I just wanted to start there. So when I was trying to think of what to talk about today, first of all, my name is Jannah Wareh. For those who don't know me, I'm from the Art and Wilderness Institute. And some say I'm the director of it, but I want to tell you I'm a naturalist through and through, like a nerdy naturalist who goes out and I go and I study nature and I do very adventurous things in order to study Allah's creations. And my thirst for understanding al-musawwir, the fashioner, the designer, how he puts everything together has driven me all over the world to study nature and to see it. And like many of you, I grew up in Orange County in a bubble, and I didn't go hiking when I was a kid. I didn't really know much about nature, to be honest. And I used styrofoam and I used plastic water bottles and, just going along with the flow like we all do. And, for me, something changed one day actually in Syria. I was 16 years old. And my uncle was a healer in Syria, and he would make medicine out of plants. I mean, you would walk into his house and it looked like Indiana Jones. And one day I had this cyst in my eye. And so my aunts were all like, influenced by France, and, oh, we'll take you to our doctors. They're real doctors. And then my uncle looked at my eye. He said, what's wrong with your eye? I said, oh, it's, there's a cyst. He said, okay, I'm going to give you a plant, and it's called white sage, and and my aunt's like, no, we'll take her to our real doctor. And there was this little fight going on. And so what happened is he said, no, come back here. He took the meramiya. So raise your hand if you know meramiya. Some of you know it. He boiled it, he let it sit, and he had me rinse my eye out with it. And it had been bothering me for like a week. And instantly it was gone. And that was the moment I went from loving animals to thinking plants were kind of cool. So there was this shift starting to happen. Much, much, much later on, and I'm telling you this story so you can understand, so we can all understand, where does our love for nature sort of begin? It starts with some kind of connection that we have. And so what happened is, much later on, I wanted to get a job taking care of animals for the Orange County Department of Education. So I applied. They looked at my resume. They said, oh, you've taught Arabic school, and said, why don't we, we'll teach you to be a naturalist. I'm like, what's a naturalist? What even is that? It's like, oh, you can, you lead hikes and stuff. I'm like, hikes? I don't even know any trails. Like, it's okay, we'll train you, and then you'll learn all the, science out on the trails. So my very first day on the job, my boss said, hey, that plant over there, this one's about ethnobotany, how Native Americans used plants. That plant, go put that card on that plant. That one is called white sage. And so I'm like, white sage, that sounds so familiar. I took it and I placed it and I clipped it on the plant, and it said white sage. The Tongva, who are the natives and the indigenous and the first people of this area, they actually used it to heal their eye. Subhanallah. And in that moment, it was like, khalas, there's something about understanding and reading all of the plants and reading nature. And Sheikh Mukhtar Mughrawi is one of my teachers that I'm taking classes with. He mentioned recently, and I thought this was really interesting. He said in Surah Al-Alaq, when the very first word, which is Iqra, does not only refer to Iqra, the Quran, it refers to Iqra, everything, nature, creation, so that we can understand it, even the DNA that's written in every plant, and that makes me look different than you. And I thought that was really interesting that, for us to understand the Quran and to connect with it on a deep level, we have to be able to read nature as well. And that also made me think, wait, 70% of Americans are environmentally illiterate. That means that if we were to go on a trail, even in our name, and say, what's that tree? Say, I don't know. What comes, where do acorns come from? I don't know. An oak tree? I'm not sure, right? And to not know that means that we have been disconnected, so very disconnected from Allah's creations, from understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how al-musawwir puts everything together. And so I wanted to best illustrate this by sharing with you a story. And the reason why I want to share the story with you is because it was one of those moments, again, for me, that made me understand, like, wow, when you say subhanallah, and it comes from your soul, like you're in awe, and that when we do that, when we go out and we see sunrise and we say subhanallah, or we see a sunset, we say subhanallah, and you're seeing all the clouds, they're changing, the colors and everything, and the wind on your face, and hearing the birds and all of that, and your anxiety's going down, and you're listening and you're saying subhanallah. There's something actually scientifically that happens in our brains when that happens. And what it does is it reduces our anxiety. And actually, there's scientific studies showing that prevents onset of Alzheimer's as well. So when we're in that mode and we're out in nature and we're doing all of this, there's actually scientifically good for us because we are supposed to be part of nature, right? And so one of these moments was when I was in Alaska. And I went to be a naturalist in Alaska for a while, and I didn't know anything about Alaska. I didn't know, like, glaciers, they're like this white stuff that, it's like ice and it does something, and I don't know why. I need to know why they're melting, but something about that. So I thought, you know what, I need to go study this. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to Alaska. So I go to Alaska, and as we're learning from, they brought in, people from National Geographic and all these amazing teachers that are showing us out in the forest how everything's working in this balance that we're talking about, this food chain. Something really interesting that it's like an interesting thought that occurred to me in this whole process, because we would go out and we would study whales, and we were doing research with NOAA and trying to track where the migration of whales are. And I realized something, and this is something really interesting. Most of our oxygen, does anyone know, where does most of our oxygen come from? Trees. Actually, it doesn't. It doesn't come from trees. It comes from the ocean. 70% of our oxygen comes from the ocean, because all the tiny little plankton and organisms that are on the surface, all along the surface of the ocean, are tiny little organisms. And these organisms, they're phytoplankton and zooplankton. Phytoplankton makes plants. It's their plants. It makes oxygen. Zooplankton are teeny tiny little microscopic animals, and they eat the teeny tiny little tiny plants. And then the krill come and they eat that. And then the small fish come and they eat the krill. And there's, subhanAllah, this whole food chain. So everyone take a deep breath. 70% of that breath was from the ocean. So subhanAllah, so now when we're thinking, and hold on to that thought a sec, because once we get into some environmental issues happening, we're going to go back to the ocean. So we have all of this happening over there. Now check this out. This was just like blew my mind. I thought about this. All the whales are coming to Alaska. Not all of them, but the ones from Hawaii are going to Alaska, okay? So bear with me. What happens in Alaska in the summertime? What happens in the summer way up north? Is there a lot less light or more light? Yeah, a lot of sunlight, right? You barely have like 3 hours of dark. So here's what happens. During those 18 hours, the ocean turns into a farm, okay? The glaciers, here's what glaciers do. This is what I didn't know. Glaciers are slow-moving rivers of ice. Yani, you look at it from the top, from an aerial view, it's literally a slow-moving river of ice. And what does it do? It bulldozes the nutrients off of the mountains. And in those nutrients are magnesium, silica, what else? Silica, magnesium, let's see here, iron, right? And the silica, check this out. The silica, when you buy shoes and there's that little packet that says do not eat, that's silica, okay? And silica is what covers the plankton. So the plankton can grow. So it bulldozes the silica, it sends it down to the water. There are 40 glaciers in Juneau, Alaska, all doing this. They send all these nutrients to the water, plus 18 hours of sun equals perfect fertilizer, equals tons of plankton, like tons of plankton. So all the whales come to eat. Now, subhanAllah, look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's design. When a whale goes to the bathroom, it's really interesting. They don't go to the bathroom down at deep. They actually come all the way up to the surface. And why do they do that? Because their feces is actually fertilizer. So look at this design. Subhanallah, he's al-Musawwir. He's like, it's a perfect design. So all that fertilizer, all that plankton, the glaciers are moving, they're bulldozing. I mean, water is stronger than rock. So water gets in the rock, it freezes, and that freezing chips off the glaciers. And that's why if you actually have seen a glacier in real life, they look dirty. Like you look at it, you think it's going to be beautiful and bright blue and clear. It's not. It's like has dirt in it, and it has rocks and boulders in it. And that's why if a cave forms in a glacier and you go in one, you have to put a helmet on, because as it's melting, boulders are falling from this ice cave. So here's the thing. This gets better. It's like, I'm like, oh, wow, it can't get better than this. Watch, it does. And this is the reason I'm telling you this story is because we've lost this connection with what's going on outside. And then I thought you can only like hear about cool things in Alaska. No, it's happening here in Orange County too. There's all kinds of cool stuff happening as well. And this is where we're going to learn how to build our awareness. But back to Alaska for a second. So here comes the whales. They're eating and they take one big gulp of water and they go and they strain out all the water and they eat all this tiny plankton. This huge animal eats all this tiny plankton and krill. And then what does it do? It licks its tongue. Its tongue licks the top of its mouth and it swallows, gulps. And it does that all day long, okay? So in the meantime, this is really interesting. Think about it. The glacier is sending all of these nutrients down to the ocean. Now, how is the forest going to get the nutrients back? It's sending it all to the ocean. Any guess? Birds. That's one way. What's another way? Anyone else? So I hear birds. I hear the wind. How are the nutrients getting back? Yeah. What? Whale feces. Well, the whale feces over in the ocean. So enter the salmon. Dun, dun, dun. We need the sound effects. So here comes the salmon. Now look at this. SubhanAllah. The salmon, Allah gave their sense of smell is so good that when they're born in the forest in a tiny stream, they remember that one spot in the forest, in that one tiny rock near that one little pebble, they remember that. And they go and they start swimming downstream to the ocean. And as they're going, their body changes colors. SubhanAllah, it changes. When they get to the ocean, they actually are now their body has changed and now they can live in the ocean. So they actually go all around the ocean and they collect nitrogen from the ocean. And then they're like, oh, time to lay eggs. I'm going to go back upstream, straight back to the forest where I was born. And they start against all odds jumping in the river up against, and that's why when we build dams, they can't do that anymore. So think about all the things. Now, as I'm telling you, think about all the things we're doing that's disrupting this balance, okay? So check it out. Now they're trying to get upstream and as they're going, their body is dying. It's deteriorating. They have limited time to make it back, lay their eggs in that one exact spot where they were born. They can smell one dot in like 1,000, I forgot what the scientific unit of measurement is called, but they can, in parts per million, they can smell like that one. If you put one dot of like, let's say jasmine in water in 10,000 million gallons, that's not even a number, but a lot of water, they can smell it. Their sense of smell is extraordinary. And they will smell that one spot they've been imprinted on, they go all the way back up, okay? And then what happens on their way up? Here comes the bears. The bears are like, oh, I'm hungry. And this is why bears are really important, subhanAllah. So check out this whole system. Bears come and they start eating the salmon. They're ripping it up and they're very wasteful on purpose. So they start eating it and they're like, oh, the brains, I love it. I'm going to throw you over there. I'm going to catch another one. And they just start doing this. And then look what happens. Everything in that forest, and I mean everything, eats salmon. The smallest little rodent to the deer, to the eagles. The eagles are lazy, by the way. They're like, I'm not going to hunt. I'm just going to go take the bear's fish. This is great. And so then the eagle comes and it takes the salmon. The little vole that goes under the soil takes the salmon. Now, remember, what did the salmon bring back from the ocean? Does anyone remember? Nitrogen. That's right. So it's bringing the nitrogen back. So when the vole goes now under the soil and it's eating the salmon and it goes to the bathroom, what is it putting into the soil? Nitrogen. When the eagle takes the salmon and it flies to the furthest tree and it goes to the bathroom, it's spreading that nitrogen in the high places that other animals can't reach. And when I learned this, it was like a wake-up call for me. Honestly, it was a moment in my life that brought me back to Islam. Because for me, it was like, subhanAllah, Allah is al-Musawwir. Every little detail, He had it fashioned. He has it completely in a beautiful system. And I went back every summer for 4 summers in a row. And I watched those glaciers disappearing faster than they had ever disappeared in life, in all of history. They shouldn't be melting this quickly. And so by 2100, we're going to lose half of the glaciers on Earth. And if I honestly had heard this statistic before I had spent time in Alaska, I wouldn't know what that means for us. But think about it. If I came to you and I said, Khale, I'm going to take all the ice from your freezer, and you don't get electricity either, and no ice in your cooler, would that worry you? Is your meat going to go bad? Yeah, everything's going to be off balance, right? In our freezer, in our refrigerator. And so therefore, everything that Allah has created is in perfect balance. And when how is this all happening? Some call it global warming, but the correct term is more climate change. And it's actually an imbalance. It's not the warming, it's that it's extremes, right? And we've seen this, right? Like we go for 7 years and there's no rain, and all of a sudden it's like rain, and then all of a sudden there's no rain, and we have not understood even how to capture our rain. We let it go, it goes to waste. It drops on the asphalt and it goes down the drain and it goes back to the ocean. We don't even capture it in our soil. Think about it. So here's the thing. As Muslims, I think it's our responsibility to, first, we have to connect. If our heart's not worried about that, right now, for example, we're facing the largest extinction of animals since the dinosaur era. Did we know this? We're in a mass extinction event right now. We lost 50% of our biodiversity of insects, which is scary because every insect, as we learned from what the whales do and what the salmon do, just because we don't know what an insect does in this system doesn't mean it's not important. For example, Western fence lizards, they're that lizard you probably have in your backyard or anywhere. That lizard, by the way, is the reason why we have less Lyme disease in California than in New York. And the reason why is because if a tick bites that lizard first and then bites you, that blood in that lizard removes the Lyme disease from the tick. Subhanallah. And then when it goes to bite you, it's like it's just a bite, but that Lyme disease is no longer there. And so we can't say, as humans and as Muslims, we can't say, oh, I'm going to decide if that animal or creature is valuable or not. If the science, just because we haven't figured out, does not mean that Allah's wisdom, that means that we are not trusting Allah's wisdom and why he put that creature in that habitat. And every single habitat is perfect until we mess it up. Until we mess it up. And so building our connection, by the way, the word conservation comes from the root word conservo. It's a Greek word that means to get to know. You're not going to fight for anything unless you get to know it, right? Like we're not going to care, like unless, let's say you go walking on your Jeffrey Trail every day. And then they say, hey, by the way, we're going to get rid of that trail. You're going to be like, wait, what? No, I use that trail every day. I care about that place because you got to know it. You spent time. But if you didn't know what that was and we said, hey, we're going to pave that and we're building 20 Starbuckses along that trail, you'll be like, oh, cool. I can stop at anyone I want and not wait in line, right? So the point is that, we don't care about things unless we get to know them. And that is why nature connection is really important. Also, what Sheikh Haifaa was saying about us taking our own water bottles places, taking our own coffee bottles. I have that yellow one and I have a red one. The red one keeps my coffee and my chai, and the yellow one, as you can see, it's very beat up. It's always with me. It has my water in it. If I don't have those two things with me when I leave the house, something's missing. And I try my best to not take paper cups, to not take any of that, because, I used to work in a coffee shop. I saw how much waste would go every day. I love coffee 2 times a day. Yes, please. But that's 365 days times 2 cups. How many cups are we putting into the landfill? By the way, if you have not gone to the Irvine landfill, you can get a free tour. And I encourage you to go see what's going on over there. We couldn't believe how much waste was going into the landfill. And by the way, Orange County, where we live, is one of the most wasteful places on planet Earth. We make the most trash more than any other city. So this is really scary. So we got to rethink how we're doing things. How are we going to do this? One, we need to get informed on, well, actually, it's pretty simple. We kind of learned this with Gaza. I think we started getting good at this. we used to believe when we were little that there were 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and what? And recycle. I would argue there's 7, starting with refuse. So someone, you're at an event, a fair, and someone's giving out some free plastic thing, and it's just going to end up in a drawer somewhere. Say, no, thank you. No, thank you. You don't need it. We don't need it. Do I need it? No, probably not. Do I need to go buy another jacket, or can I just repair what I have? And by the way, it is sunnah to repair our own clothes. Except I don't do a very good job. So my mom's like, give me that. That looks really bad. Did you do this like with your eyes closed while swimming underwater? Like, sorry, Mom, I'll get better at sewing. So we got refuse. Okay. We got repair. So let's repair what we have. Let's restore the earth, restore our yard, plant trees, get rid of your grass and put soil, because the soil will it'll actually absorb carbon better. And if we take care of our soil, which is if you have living soil, you can grow anything. Lettuce from soil that's damaged is not the same lettuce from soil that has living bacteria and mushrooms and mycelium in it. The nutrient content is going to be very different, right? So plant trees so that butterflies and bees and all of these creatures can benefit from coming to your yard, right? And then recycle, we said restore. So restore our habitats and replenish. So, replenish. So we have this mentality that we're supposed to have a 0 carbon footprint. Actually, as Muslims, we're supposed to be actually contributing back, that our presence made this earth even better than had we not lived. Not that it's a 0 carbon footprint, but that our existence left a better life for the next generation. And honestly, I feel embarrassed when I look at my students, where some of them are sitting here, and I tell them, I'm like, I'm sorry I messed up your earth. I'm sorry you have to live through this. I'm sorry you have to deal with the consequences because I was being careless and wasteful. I didn't know better, but now I do, and I'm going to try to be better. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I drive a lot. That's a lot of carbon I put in. But we try to plant more trees, right? At Art and Wilderness Institute, for every class that anyone signs up for, we put aside money and we buy a plant or a tree for that person to offset the carbon of them going to the classes and things like that. We're trying, but there's so much work to do. The Green Masjid Initiative, just seeing how much styrofoam was at masjids during Ramadan, and styrofoam never breaks down. Millions of years later, we have plastic floating in the ocean that's like 3-4 times the size of Texas. That shouldn't be there. It's floating in the ocean. It's, I'm wondering, I'm embarrassed. I don't know if any of my stuff's out there in the ocean, right? But these are things we need to hold ourselves accountable for. But there's hope. There are a lot of amazing resources, and it starts with education. I will say, get outside, go watch an ant for an hour, go on a trail. If you're not sure, if you're scared, there's many amazing organizations. We have Art and Wilderness Institute. We have women's hikes. You can join them. They're free. Come join them. We go out every other week. There is, let's see here. I made a list. SoCal Muslim Outdoors for the families. It's free. They take everybody out. Go join that group. There is Zaytuna permaculture class with Ramiz Kent. I just took that. It was amazing. We learned all about soil and agriculture and farming. And I didn't know anything. I was not a farmer. I'm a wilderness girl. So I was learning about that. Off the Grid Sisters, Dustin Tribe. There's a lot of Muslim organizations that do hiking out here. And mashallah, they're all excellent. They're amazing. So get outside, because if we're not outside, one, it's bad for our health to be inside. There's so many chemicals inside buildings and whatnot. And two, we're not able to say subhanallah. I can't tell you how many times on the trail. It's not forced. Okay, I must do my dhikr now. It's like you're out there and you're like, wow, subhanallah. Oh my gosh, subhanallah. Look at this ant. Look at this bee. And it's just natural. We're in a state of dhikr outside. It's easy because it's in our fitrah. We're meant to look at the stars. We're meant to look at wildflowers, and we're meant to have gratitude in our heart for everything that Allah gave us. And so I don't want to take up too much more of our time together. And inshallah, we have a table outside if you want to talk more and nerd out with me more on nature, I'd be happy to do that. And once again, I wanted to thank you so much for attending and really thank Dr. Haifaa. I know she lives green. I've seen it. She does compost and she doesn't have plastic and she doesn't, bring in wasteful things into her house. I've seen it and it's amazing and it's inspiring. And I feel like it's a decision. We're faced with decisions every second of our day. When we go to the grocery store, it's a decision. We're feeling it with the boycott. We know this, but it's also with packaging. And so I'll end by saying this. The safest thing we can do to prevent damage, there's no such thing as a cheap way out. If something's really cheap, something paid the price for it. Either a mountain got exploded in a very shortcut way, a lot of creatures died, or, like for example, mining for lithium batteries for our Teslas and whatnot, Congo's paying the price for that. So there's always everything has a price. The safest thing we can do is put in our own sweat. And I recently learned at that permaculture class that we actually have 500 kilojoules of energy, each human a year to use. But we kind of, what we do is I'll just pay someone, then I don't have to use my energy, right? But if we use our own sweat, like instead of, hiring someone to clean our house, get extra and driving to the gym, instead of going to the gym, exercise in your house by cleaning our own houses, right? Like that's exercise. Or farming, go outside and compost and farm, and that's exercise too, but we're putting in our own sweat, we're making our own food, and we're connected in that way. So Jazakallah khair, thank you so much, and go outside, go get your hands dirty, go dig in the soil, and Jazakallah khair, thank you for having me.
Assalamu alaikum. So everybody is going to go and plant it. Oh, mashallah. Everyone going to go and plant a tree? How about you do this? Really? I mean, let us be people who not only listen, but there's nothing comes out. Right? Because Allah is going to ask me and ask you, right? You listen to her talk. The salmon, I love salmon. I never know salmon does all that. Right? It's amazing. It's the balance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, now connected with the Quran, قُسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا. Walk on this earth and see. كَيْفَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقِ. How did He started all this creation? So each one of us, what about 100 here in this? If everyone tomorrow planted a tree in your backyard, and wherever you can plant a tree, you already added 100 trees to this earth. Right? Once a month, and look at it as an act of charity. And again, it's an act of worship. This is what I don't want you to belittle people. This is a problem. People will belittle you. Oh, you're gonna correct all this, and I said, yeah. People say this to me. I said, yeah. At least when I stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm gonna say I was not part of it. This is هذا قدري مما أملك أو هذا قسمي مما أملك. This is what I can do. This is what I can afford, right? But I'm not going to sit and do nothing. Sit and do nothing, that's not a Muslim. We're a proactive. Our deen is a proactive. SubhanAllah, how much we changed it. It's a proactive, you change. Look at the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, how much he changed, much they did. So here you go, all of you. The best way is the green masjid. Again, I'm not going to be with you in Ramadan in the masjid, but let's show Allah number one, the best of us, the best in us, and let's show everybody else that we can do it. No plastics, period. Definitely no styrofoam. Everyone go and get your own cup. Bring your cup with you. You forget it, join my club. Right? That's fine, honestly. Somebody took it, alhamdulillah, I'll go and get another one. But do it, be conscious. This paper plates or plastic plates, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Subhanallah. So we all have to change, period. And Allah is going to say, subhanallah, this was supposed to be a community lecture. But then subhanallah, last minute, the schedule changed. And I was like, no, I need the community to hear this before Ramadan, because Ramadan is the biggest wasteful month, unfortunately. So alhamdulillah, you all came. May Allah reward you. Let's do it. And each one remind the other. If your friends are going to the masjid, you see her carrying a bottle of water. Oh, let me go and get mine. You're carrying a bottle, plastic? No. Because the issue is, even with recycle, I'm sure you have seen it. Don't feel, I mean, it's better than nothing, but it is not what you think, unfortunately. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, help us to do this, and let's be people of change. People of change. I mean, you all know last Ramadan, when we did the Builders of Nation, the series in Ramadan, I can't tell you how much I learned from those women. They changed. Some they changed, some they produced men who changed, or they raised, may Allah forgive me, not produced, they raised, they were women. Some of them didn't know how to read and write. So let's all of us do this, bi'idhnillah, take care of our masjid, keep it clean, please. Don't tell me I didn't throw it. I don't care. I'm going to pick it up. You don't want to pick it up? I'll pick it up. I'm going to get the reward. Be hunters of good deeds, all of you, in every aspect. Ramadan is not only about fasting and prayer and zakah or fundraising. That's everybody else. What's going to make your siyam different than everybody else? What is it? Has to be something 99% people look at you and says, what? Really? Is that what it is? Yeah, it is. With a smile. And be happy, bi'idhnillah. Any questions? Where is it? I'm not seeing. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, I'm not seeing.
Where do we get the drinking water from? And they all get in water bottles. What's the other alternative?
Say that again?
What's the alternative for drinking water? And I get them from water bottles.
No.
This right here. This
Yeah, I mean, how do we buy
from
them?
the faucet.
They're all over. Target has them.
Everybody has it.
Orange. How do you buy the drinking water? And we get a pack of full of plastic bottles.
La habibati. You get this, right? Get a filter. Jug has filter. Don't buy the jug plastic. The jug has a filter. You put the water in it, leave it outside. The water is filtered. Put it in your bottle and drink. You know what? My parents, and a majority of your parents, grew up on this. They have something called hibbi, remember? It's the clay container. What is the clay container? They didn't have fridge. They put the water in the clay container. It filters the water, and then the water gets very cold, and it's very yummy. Guess what? I have one in my house. Absolutely. It's called, in the Arabic language, it's called hib, ha, ba, but put a kasra under. I don't know if you can buy it. I'm sure you can buy it somewhere. Okay. Questions. Let's not talk between us because we're not going to learn. Please. Alaikum salam. That's okay. About Palestine. Bismillah.
This week at my school, I go to Woodbridge High School. It's Cultural Week, and they had flags like all over the school, and they had Palestine's flag, and they also had Israel's flag.
Okay.
So my friend, I'm really proud to be her friend, especially after what she did. But she kind of tore Israel's flag.
Don't do that. That's not smart.
So they gave her like Saturday school, and they're gonna make her watch a video on anti-Semitism. And like we all got in a lot of trouble. Like me and my sister got like in trouble with the vice principal. We didn't do anything, but like they just saw us like around the area, and I probably because of my hijab.
So what is your question?
So like I just want to know like how do we respond to it, and like
this is where you all, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but because of the other people are raising their hands, you have to be very, very smart. And you have to be, actually it's principle in deen. Amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi an munkar. When you enjoin good and prevent evil. The principle in general. The first principle in this principle is make sure when you enjoin good, that will bring good. And make sure when you prevent evil, it's going to not bring another evil. لا يكن أمرك بالمعروف منكرا. So why do I want to do that? Again, I don't blame you. You're all young, you're full of energy and you want to do something. But this have brought way more harm than if I stood up and said something, gave them the history, and done. I'm not going to talk about religion. I'm not going to talk about politics. I'm just going to give the history. Or I put a flyer or whatever, I don't know, whatever they allowed you. Next to it is the history of. But this is for everybody. If you're going to talk about the subject, you have to be very careful. You say what will serve. It's not about emotions. They don't need my emotions. They need my support. And they need me saying the right thing. So now you have to be, all of you, very careful, right? And even if it means I'm going to apologize because the act you did is not something pleasing to Allah. I'm not talking about you are rejecting. I'm talking about the act itself was not the best action. I wish before you do anything, consult people. Ask the elder, right? I mean, even ask care. They will absolutely guide you how to say things that is very effective to the point. May Allah make it easy. And may Allah reward you for your feelings. Yes, please. The last one, yes. You need to stand up. Good luck if I'm going to hear it. Bismillah. Wa alaikum assalam. Right, the hib, yeah. The clay container. No. I didn't look for it locally. I don't know if it is, but it is not local. Okay. Another question, please.
Just in regards to the thermos, I was just at the thrift store. You can get these thermoses at the thrift store for like $2 to $3 as opposed to
Right, that's a good.
Look at that. You want to save money?
I got this for $2.50. They had bigger one for $5.
Yes. So go to these $1 store, thrift store. I mean, we don't want to make announcements for stores, but also you don't have to buy $20 or $30 for a container, right? And if you lose it, don't worry.
Actually, can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
Sorry. So when we shop at thrift stores and garage sales, 7 a.m. Saturday mornings, best. You're buying something that's already been used, and here in Orange County, people use something like one time and then they put it in their garage sale or they donate it. And so what that means is it hasn't gone through the process of natural resource extraction. So that means that if I buy this new, it took dynamite to explode a mountain, to extract the rock, to take out the metal from the rock to make this. But if I buy it at a thrift store, it means it's already been used. We're not contributing to that. So that's a really good, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, Jazakillah khair. Absolutely. See? Alhamdulillah. Yes. Any other? Oh, really? Already? Salam alaikum. Okay, nothing about Ramadan. Everybody is ready? Really? Nothing? Yes. Mahi.
Speaking of which, Ramadan and all that, can Sama just give us a glimpse of her trip when she sat in Wareh?
No, that's private. No, I met her in Umrah last year, actually. That's how I met her. She was with me in Umrah, so we're not going to go into that detail. Okay. No, don't worry about that. Now, we need something that will benefit everybody. We don't want it to be personal. Okay, any question? Any comment? Okay, I'm going to ask you this question because we have 2 more minutes. What's your goal in Ramadan? Each one of you, one goal. Don't give me taqwa, don't give me general. Let me ask the youth. Oh, no. Okay, no, I'm not going to put you on the spot. No. Anybody? Yes, please. To finish reading the Quran. You have not done it before. MashaAllah. See, for us, it's like, what is finishing reading the Quran? Allah show us things that I was like, you better be grateful. Yes.
Plant a tree and check on it.
Yes, plant a tree and check on it and take care of it and talk to it, right? Because you don't know, maybe that plant, that tree will get me to Jannah. Yes. To prepare every salah, including the sunnah. Yes. To compost. Yes. You have 3 ways of compost. How many of you in this room compost? Ouch. Ouch. There's only 4 hands. It's like less than 4%. Okay, you have 3 ways of compost. In California, some places, I don't know if it's every place, but they will give you a green container. The green container is compost. So whatever you have in the yard, you put it there. Wherever things that are that you can compost, which you can compost everything except bones of the meat, yani lamb, beef, you can't. But fish, chicken, peels, anything that you normally, when you are cooking or eating, you throw it in the trash, that's compost. And you can just leave the green, and they will take care of it. Second one, you need to have a yard, which I actually used to do it. Basically, again, everything comes out from your kitchen, but then you have to do about, if I remember well, it's like 40-60, where you put anything comes from the yard, meaning like when the weather change, and then you have all the tree leaves, anything you're cleaning, you put it there. And then there is a certain machine, either machine where you literally do with your hand, or you can put it outside, and then you need to tilt. It's a process, but it will become compost at the end. Now, the easiest way, of course, it's going to cost you money. You're going to buy a machine, and there are many of them. Don't buy a coffee machine, buy a compost machine. And basically, I have it in the house. It has a bucket. You put the bucket in your kitchen, whatever you're eating an orange, right? You peel the orange, it's not going to go to the trash. It's going to go in that bucket. Everything till it gets full, you put it in the machine, turn it on. 3 hours later, it's compost. I used it this morning. I planted trees, and I put it there. How much? I tell people it's the best, whatever dollars I paid for in my life is this machine. And every time I look at it and say, Ya Rabbi lak alhamd. Ya Rabbi, I want to see it in my right book. It took a little bit extra effort, a little bit extra money, but this is what it is, saving the earth. Why don't you do it? Everybody has how many machines in your kitchen? Don't tell me. I don't want to know. And half of it, how often we use it? Once a year. So this is the 3 ways of doing a compost. Yes.
So I understand that there are certain things that are recyclable, like paper and those kinds of things. And many of the trash companies will pick those up and take it to recycle.
Yeah, for papers, shred them. And if you are doing the compost not in the machine, you're doing it naturally, the papers goes into the compost, and it will helps. Usually we start to do it in October, or usually October, and then by the time you get to April, you have compost. Yes.
Where do you plant a tree
In your backyard.
Like if you can't, like, I mean,
If you have a small backyard. If you don't have a backyard, in a pot. In a pot.
We do habitat restoration with parks and things. So if you want, get on our email list, and we have volunteer days, and you come and plant with us, inshallah.
But you can put it in a pot in your home, or in the backyard if you have a backyard. Yes.
Earlier you mentioned that do not
Okay. Can we please listen? Jazakumullah khair.
you mentioned that do not let the water run while you're washing your hands.
Yeah.
I would add something else to that. Do not let the water run while you're brushing your
Everything, exactly. Brushing your
That's
teeth.
the most common one.
Yeah. No. The most common one is when we wash dishes, because this is 2 or 3 times a day. The brushing of the teeth is usually once, twice a day, and it is about 3 minutes if you do 3 minutes. But the 2 major waste is dishes and wudu. Yes.
As we have in Syria now hunger, and a lot of people, they are hungry after the war, and we never had this thing before. Once I read a woman, she said, my father was wise enough to plant a lot of olive trees around. Nowadays, we go like for flowers and like this. Nobody knows where war comes. Yeah, now in Palestine, in Syria before.
So plant not only flowers, but plant fruit trees.
Fruit trees and like olives, like
Yeah, if you can. California is a place where you can grow olive, but you have to be very patient. You may not see the olives in your life because it takes a long time. Yes, yes, yeah. No, somebody from the youth, yes.
It's kind of like a comment. So when you're cooking eggs, you could keep the shells for the plant because once you smash them, you can put in the
That's
plants
true.
and the plants will get stronger.
MashaAllah.
That's true.
Yes.
That's really
Very
good.
good.
Back to the olive tree comment, I just want to share something. Should be very inspirational because we talked about a lot of sad things tonight. So I was recently in Turkey, and my friends there said, "Sama, we have to introduce you to this man who talks to trees. They're 4,000-year-old trees, olive trees." So we went, and what this man does, he's a Syrian refugee living in Turkey. He actually finds out from the government where they're going to build a road next, and he beats them there, and he pays the falaha who owns the land. What are you going to do with that tree? We're going to cut it and make firewood. He says, for how much? 75. He says, I'll pay you 100 to leave it alone. So he goes in and he brings excavators, and they dig around the whole tree with the soil. They put a belt, they take the whole tree to the nursery, and they grow it for 5 years, and they resell it for up to $100,000 later. And so he's moved 7,000 trees from being cut down within the last 6 years. And I thought that was an interesting way to do it.
Jazakallah khair. Yes. Any other question? I'm going to give you extra time today in case you wonder, because it's the last class. I was here till 10 p.m. yesterday with the young professionals. Yes. Yes, please.
Would it be possible to do a demonstration of wudu with 1 cup of water?
Absolutely. I have done it. You have to come with me to Umrah or Hajj. Because you really need it. In Hajj, you definitely need it. I mean, you will reach a point there is no water. This is how you do it, okay? Or you can do it also in the bottle is a little bit easier, but half the bottle. But if you have the cup, just any regular cup, okay? So basically, everything is going to be with your right hand. So you put your right hand in the cup. There's going to be water, right? More than enough. 1, and then 2, and then 3. Same story, right? Same. When you come to the hand, it's a little bit tricky. So you're going to put it in here and do your hand like that and do it. 2nd and 3rd. Come to this side, same thing. Either here, or if you don't feel very comfortable with your left hand, bring the right hand and wash it. Now you come here. That's very easy. The last thing is the feet. That's where you have to be really conserving the water. I usually put it in the same thing here, and then make sure all my feet are wet. I'm not wiping. You can't wipe on their feet. You have to wash the feet. I see this every time again, when women are doing wudu, then you wash. So you're not going to pour, because if you pour, unless you really have a good control, pour is a good idea also, but sometimes you pour and you say, oh, nothing left. So I normally, in the beginning when I learned it, it's more than 20 years, I learned it with my hand. Now I can control it, and then I just put. Most of the time, there is things left in the cup. And I actually drink it afterward because it's my hand was there. Yeah, it's very easy. It's just a matter of, it's like the non-Muslims looked at you, all of you, you'll feel this. In less than 10 days, fasting, nothing, no water, no food. And I said, no, I'll die. And I said, I've been doing it since 10 years of age and I'm still alive. So it's a matter of training and practice and focus. Focus. I want to do it because it is act of worship pleasing to Allah. Okay? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ya Rabbi lakal hamd. Yes, please.
So you were talking about what our goals for Ramadan were.
Yes.
So there's it's a very small one.
I don't care. Let's do it.
I heard that when you say where you recite Ayatul Kursi after every fard prayer.
Yes.
There's a hadith that says that nothing will stand between you and Jannah except death.
You have a faqihah here. Absolutely right. When after every salah, it's one of the goals. The habits we need to establish. Don't move after your salah. Sit down. What are you rushing? Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam saw a sahabi. He finished salah and he ran. And he said, he has nothing to ask Allah. SubhanAllah. He to the sahabi, he said, he has nothing to ask Allah. Nothing. So you sit If you don't know it, it's all over. You can download, you can print. What are you going to say? Astaghfirullah, and then you do Ayatul Kursi after every salah. If you die, there is nothing between you and Jannah. How long it takes you to read Ayatul Kursi? Most people know it by heart, alhamdulillah. If you don't know it, read from the Quran. Jazakillahu khair. Look at these youth are amazing. Yes. Yes.
Is there
Praying on time.
like if we pray late, do you think Allah will still accept our prayer?
Yeah, the salah is accepted if you late, meaning within the time, but it's not at the beginning of the time. It's definitely accepted, but you missed on a better reward. Yes, please. All the youth are asking. The adults knows everything, mashallah. They're perfect. Perfect. You're going to just observe them in Ramadan and give me a report after. Okay. Is it true when? Allah knows. Allah knows. They are creation of Allah. Talk to them. I mean, the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam talked to the tree and he talked to the animal. Well, that's a Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. But if you look at it and says, how beautiful you are, what does the Creator looks like then? That's an act of worship because you remembered Allah and you looked at the beauty of His creation. So talk to them. Yeah, why not? Yes, please.
I have a question about prayer, and I'm currently using an app to guide me through prayer.
Right. She's a new Muslim.
Thank you so much. But I don't know if it's okay to hold it in my hand and do the motions.
Can you do it before you start the salah? Will you remember?
No, I struggle with ADHD and stuff. So
okay.
I know that if I don't have the app in my hand, I'm gonna mess
How many motions you gonna do with the app?
So usually what I do is
see the things we have no problem with.
And
see?
I also this is maybe a nitpicky thing, but I'm worried about holding it in my left versus my right hand because right hand is sunnah. But I don't know if I should have my right hand free when I'm doing motions.
Where you are more in control. Use it.
My left hand is my dominant hand.
Then you hold it in the left hand.
Okay, perfect.
Because you're not eating in the left hand.
I do eat with my left hand.
Well, that's another story we'll talk about later. But the main thing is usually the eating in the left hand, and when you start with things, start with the right hand. But this is a necessity because now you can focus better. You're more in control. Absolutely.
Right. Basically, what I do is I pretty much do everything. But when I'm in prostration, I of course have the phone not in my hand. But everything else I've noticed, if I try to put it on the floor or something, I mess up completely.
Right. Okay.
So I just wanted to ask, is that
do your best.
I'm doing my best.
That's how it is. Do your best. Allah will reward you on the efforts.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes.
So is it okay to read from the Quran while you're praying?
Which one? Which salah that you're okay to read from the Quran?
Is it okay to read it?
If it's an obligation, the answer is no. Unless you are a revert, you don't know anything from the Quran. But if you are in the voluntary salah, yes, you can. Yes. Anything else? I told you no. I told you no fiqh, but you still insist on fiqh. Okay. Bismillah. One fiqh question. Bismillah. To pray in Jama'ah, of course.
So if I pray with kids, so is this legitimate Jama'ah?
All of them. Who's the Imam?
I'm the Imam.
So you're then I will pray my. See, you have to know why. So I will pray my own fard on time, and then I'll pray my nafil with my children, and then I get the both rewards. But I thought Hamza will be because then that's a legitimate Jama'ah. Yes.
But are these for women also?
You were not here. You were not here last week.
I was.
You were? Okay, that's okay. All of us forget because I put the most common 10 questions women ask in Ramadan. It's on YouTube. The woman coming to Taraweeh, is it allowed? Absolutely. Is it recommended? Let's see how many faqih in this room. I love the answer. Now you learned. You were here last week. It depends. It depends. Number one, how I am coming to the masjid. Please, please, and in honesty, I beg everybody, please, it is not my house and yours, it's Allah's house. Respect the house of Allah. Come in the way that pleases Allah. You want to do whatever you want to do outside, that's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who I am to judge anyone. But inside the house, it's His house. Come dressed properly. Come covered. Even if you're not covered outside. Again, that's between you and Allah. But inside, if you're coming for salah, you need to be in salah. Don't go outside and start chit-and-chatting and talking and everything and distracting everybody. That's when I say to the woman, you know what? Stay home. Why you're coming? Why you're coming? We all go to what? To listen to the Quran, to feel the community feeling, right? I love it when I get tired, but she's still doing it. That gives me energy, right? And yes, that's one of the virtues of Salatul Jama'ah. But if I'm not coming, I'm not doing most of this. Why I am in the masjid? Running around, dressed not exactly the right thing. I laugh. My talk is very loud. I'm distracting everybody. Why I'm in the masjid? Sometimes the woman says, you know what? I will have way more focus in the house than when I am in the masjid. And you know what? That's true. We all felt it during COVID. So yes, but it's allowed? Absolutely, it's allowed. There's a saying to Sayyidah Aisha, and I want all of you to hear it. Some of you were not here last week. This is after Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam died. And this is Sayyidah Aisha. So this is less than maybe 40 years after Rasul, even less, because she died in her 50s. She said, if a Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam saw what women are doing in the masjid that time, he would have prevented them from coming. If any masjid now will say it's not allowed for women, how are we going to feel? I personally will feel offended, right? Why? Why? He did not say it. But if I'm going to come and I am going to create fitna, I'm going to create issues, then I need to really think why I'm coming. Because it is not me only. It's people around me. And it is not women only. It is mixed. That's how masajid are, right? But I need to be very careful. Or every time I'm putting my foot in the masjid, I want every breath in this masjid to witness for me on the Day of Judgment. I don't want any act in that masjid. It will be, I'm coming to obey Allah. I ended up leaving and Allah is going to ask me, you did this or you did that, or you didn't do this or you didn't do that. Please don't bring your phones to the musalla. This morning, Fajr, the Imam is reading, literally your heart will melt. And of course the phone rings. And the phone rings and there is melodies. At least put it as a ring. And alhamdulillah, it took about maybe 2 minutes and then she turned it off. She's not doing it on purpose, that's for sure. But we all forget. Don't bring it. Leave it in the car. Leave it in the car. I mean, the car is not, how far is it from the masjid? That's number one. You get tired. Leave. Leave. Alhamdulillah, whatever Allah opened up for you. But don't sit in the back chit-and-chatting. You are hurting the women who are praying. Last but not the least, the most important, if you have your cycle, you cannot sit in the musalla. You can't. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. I was like, what is this? What happened? You can't. Even the musalla is empty. You want to listen to the Quran? Be outside the prayer area. Like in our masjid, be on the stairs or be in the two classrooms. But you can't be in the prayer area where people are praying, not for a class. But the salah is on. I come in and I say, why you're sitting? You can't pray? She said, no. I said, then why you're sitting here? Let's all learn. لا أحل. It's a weak hadith. But more than one incident, he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, I do not make the musalla allowable to the woman during her menstruation. So please remember this. Jazakumullahu khairan. Let's end it here because we still need to pray. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه تسليما كثيرا.